All right, Dan, thanks a lot. So we've been following that case, and sadly, it cost a career is done.
Well, it leads to the question, too, what is the mentality a cop needs in a situation like this, and why are so many people quick to reject authority right now in this time? Here to weigh in is Dr. Keith Ablow. Good morning to you, Dr. Keith. What's your assessment here of this new, it seems like a new psychological shift is occurring in terms of how teens or people in the streets are reacting to police? What's going on?
Well, I think that some leaders in America have fractured the trust that Americans place properly or placed properly in authority, in police officers. You know, when I was a kid growing up, if a police officer showed up, you were quiet, you answered questions. You know, no trampling on your rights was necessarily allowed by any means, but you did pretty much what you were told. Not so now. Things have shifted, and that's a shift encouraged by some leaders.
Well, when you say some leaders, who are you talking about?
Well, look, I don't think that the president or our former attorney general did anything to help people out when they seemed to side with folks other than the police, or, for that matter, the mayor of New York. So these messages are very powerful,
right,
and they're heard by young people who may think of it as a cause celeb to sort of resist police officers when the right thing to do, these guys are generally very well-intentioned indeed, public servants, is to quiet down, answer the questions, pretty much do as you're told. They're police officers.
Sure. All right, Dr. Keith, if the police boss from McKinney hired you to talk about handling pressure situations or for everybody to get better at them, what types of things, what should be the mindset when you come into an unsettling situation like those pool fights that were happening that day?
Yeah, I'd say this. I'd say, listen, in these times, in such situations, you got to stay very close to guidelines that we're teaching you. We're going to teach you them again. And by the way, we know there's a heightened sense that you may feel of vulnerability as a police officer. Listen, these guys are tough. They're willing to risk their lives for other people.
Every day.
And yet, right now, the streets are more dangerous because, to some extent, people have it in for the police.
Well, we've seen those threats across the nation where police departments have been high on alert. We've seen police officers shot and killed, particularly here in New York City as well. So understandably, when an officer is going in and feels overwhelmed, there's got to be a psychological state that he's dealing with now, different so than he maybe has been in years past. It's a good insight there, Dr. Keith. In terms of how everyone should be viewing this right now in the conversation, what do we need to know?
Well, I think what we need to know is that things for police officers are different, because the bottom line is it used to come with the job. It was like a benefit that the respect of the community was yours. You might not make millions of dollars, but you wore this badge and people admired that, or at least they were thankful. Now that's shifted, and I think there is a psychological moment here where police officers need some help, perhaps, departments need it, in order for them to understand, listen, these things may come in waves or in cycles. You will win the respect of the community if you just remain faithful to the oaths you took.
Gotcha. And it will also be help if fellow officers said, hey, you know, you got to calm down. If some of the officers would have grabbed him and just said...
There was an arm that went on him at one point in that video that you saw. It's interesting. But the police were called into that situation there. We're going to remind everybody of that as well. Dr. Keith, thanks.
Yes, thank you.
All right.